So we're going to do the hemp leaf today, just a section of the hemp leaf here. As you can see, I've sewn this one with polycotton, some wadding and a piece of polycotton on the back to give it that quilted effect. So our first step is to draw out a rectangle. You can either mark this straight onto your fabric or graph paper if you want to keep the patterns. And we're marking out a rectangle that is 16 by 24 centimeters. So if you mark that out, we are then going to divide that into 8. So you can divide it down the middle. So find the center there. So these bits here is just used for marking out our pattern. Not all of it will be sewn. So even though I've drawn the segments, there's parts of them that will be removed. So I'd suggest either you could draw this in pencil and then rub out the bits you don't need, or if you're keeping it as a reference, just mark it up in different colours like I've done here. So that's it in half, and then I'll just divide this in half down here. So it's 6. Like that. So then I've got that divided into 8. So that's divided up into 8 there. So it's the rectangles are 8 wide by 6 deep, and you'll end up with the 8 there. What I would suggest now to draw in the pattern, this is just to help you make the pattern, if you like. I would just use a different coloured pen so that you can actually mark the actual hemp leaf pattern. So the first thing that we can mark is down the center of the whole big rectangle, and then we can draw out from the top rectangle, top right rectangle, diagonally across that whole rectangle there. And the same then with the left-hand top rectangle, go from the top point to the bottom there. So we've almost drawn an arrow on. So next we are going to cross the next rectangle below. So you can either go through all of the middle 2 diagonally like this, or do it just as a diamond, if that's easier to start with, makes more sense. So we'll have a diamond here and then a diamond at the bottom as well. So we're just taking it from the corners of those 8 rectangles. So we've got that bit there. Now, if you wanted to, just to make it easier so that, well, it depends if you find it easier, to mark the other lines in, you can either keep it all in one colour or do it in another colour, which would then show sort of your stitch direction, if you like. So what I'm going to do next is from the first set of rectangles down to this point here, either side of it, I'm going to measure 3 centimeters and put a dot either side there. And then the same on the first rectangle up from the bottom. So 3 and 3. So I've got a dot here, here, and here and here. So what we're doing now is the steeper diagonal lines. So we're going to go from the top point to the mark 3 centimeters out. And then the same on the other side. And then another little diamond here for the top edge. Again, you can do that as a cross like we did with the pink markings as well. It's the same. and then to the bottom point. So we've now got 2 diamonds going through the center there. So the markings for our last bit of this hydrangea here, I'm going to do in again another colour. So I will do that in blue. And what I'm doing is from the point of the pink to the point of the green, I'm doing the blue line. And then the same here. From the point of the green to the point of the blue. So this line here that I marked in to mark up the rectangles will be not actually sewn. It was just to help us create the pattern. And then I'll do the same here on the next section of the hemp leaf, going from the pink point to the green point. And again here. And then what we're doing is, if you now, check that's in the right place, measure 2 centimeters in. So now the middle of the rectangle, 2 centimeters in on this middle line here and here, we are going to draw a line through there. So this is going to be a sewn line here. So you can see how many times it intersects in the middle, this pattern. And then the last thing we need to mark on is from this 2 centimeter point in is up to that point of the pink line I've got there. And then the same to the bottom part. There for the bottom section. And then the same on this side. So 2 centimeters in. And that's the whole design there, ready to either use to with your carbon paper to press through onto fabric. So you can see here, when it does come onto a piece of fabric, the rectangles that have been drawn aren't on there. It's just the pink, blue and green lines that you're actually stitching here. So this is the pattern here. You could always add a border to it if you wanted to. It's up to you. So that's just a little section there of the hemp leaf for us to try stitching today. So we'll be really thinking about here where all these lines intersect. This is the most that we've done, that we leave this space in the center. When we land all of our stitches, we're going to be leaving this gap in the center there to give that space to the design. So I'll do another video on now of beginning to sew that. What I can talk through is this handout here, which is the same as what I've marked out here, is just your start point, your start and finish point of just getting as much flow of the thread as you can. So for the pink line, you can start at the bottom, you can come up to the top, do the zigzag line here, back to the bottom, back up to the left, diagonally like that. And so you've not had to stop the flow of thread for the pink line I've marked. If you've still got enough thread, you can also sew the green lines in the same length of thread that has all the same flow. The only ones where there is an interruption is for the blue line, in which case you're going to have to sew sort of here, 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 and here. And then the same, a second line for this, along, up, up, and along, and then just the central line separately. So that's disjointed into sort of 3. When this hemp leaf is in a repeat pattern and this gap wouldn't be so big, that's when you can then sort of carry the thread behind your work, and you'll be doing it in more of a flow, because this diagonal line would carry on to another part of the hemp leaf design. But the first thing, once we've marked it out, we're going to sew the pink line, as I've sort of put on the instruction that's on canvas as well. If you want to try a smaller version of the hemp leaf also, that's not the sort of elongated rectangle but as a square, you can start with the smallest scale of 8 by 8 centimeters. You can always scale it up. So I've drawn a square 8 by 8 and I've divided it into centimeter columns and then 2 centimeter rows. So you've ended up with 32 little rectangles for this one to start with. So if you just draw this lightly, if you've got graph paper, just you could mark it out very lightly with pencil. But this isn't actually any point of what you sew. This is just to help us mark the design on. So then in another coloured pen, just to make it a little easier to see, I'm going to draw the hexagon that goes around the outside of this hemp leaf. So if I measure 2 centimetres in and draw a line that's 4 centimetres, there, and then I can do the same at the bottom, 2 centimetres in. I've just changed that for a colour you can see more clearly. So 2 centimetres in, a 4 centimetre line. And then the next thing we're doing is just joining the point of each of these lines to the middle of the outside there, and we'll have a hexagon there. Like that. And then what we can do is draw a line down the centre. Yeah. And then a line across the middle, but we're starting it 2 centimetres in. So we've crossed that now. So that's 4 centimetres long as well. And then next what we can do, if we go back up to this top line and we come in 1, and we're going to draw a line that is 2 centimetres long. Here. And then 2 centimetre gap and 2 centimetres along again. So we've come in 1 centimetre from the edge, 2 centimetre line, and then we're going to do that in the bottom section as well. So at this point here, we're going to come in 1 centimetre, 2 centimetre line, and a 2 centimetre line from the other side. So we've done our vertical line and then our horizontal lines. And now we're going to do our diagonal lines. We are now going to do a diagonal cross, across in the middle from the point here to here, going through the centre there. 1 and 2. And then we can also go from these points here and here up to the top. And then the same at the bottom. So, and then you can almost begin to see here where the design is going to sort of go now. So if we now go to, so we've got this line here to finish this one and this one off as a diamond as well. I can add a diagonal line from this point to here. And from this point to here. So we've got 2 diamonds there, and then do the same on the other side. Here and here. So now the only thing left to do is add the more shallower diagonal lines in here. So now we are going to go through the center from point of the diamond to other point of the diamond. So now what I've marked on here with the red is all that we are going to actually sew onto our fabric. The grid was just there to help us mark it out.